The Raymore City Council work session for Monday, April the 19th, 2021. We only have one item on our agenda tonight to go over, but it's a long one. So I'll let Mr. Fearborn start off with a recap, and then we'll probably adjourn to the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I had described in the agenda, tonight's going to be kind of a strange type of format. We're going to have a presentation for you all here, and then we're going to ask the mayor to actually adjourn the meeting and go to an open house format. And that's the reason I outlined that in the agenda, because of course there'll still be a quorum of you all here. Once you're done with any questions you might have back here, and we'll leave the cameras running, but we'll turn all the audio off. Once you're done and we drop below 4 members of the council here for below a quorum, then we'll go ahead and turn the cameras off for the remainder of the time that you all are here. Feel free to ask as many questions as you have. The toy vehicles actually serve a practical purpose. If you've ever sat here or remember sitting here during work sessions on the floor, all of this paper was blowing off the table, so we thought we'd use the cars as a visual aid for you all as well. Tonight's meeting is to talk about Ward Road. As you can see from the 35 feet of paper that we killed trees for on this particular item, this is a massive project for the city. Very exciting, and we wanted to show you all in detail all of the things that are the enhancements to this road that are going to be going on. To that end, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Crass to make the presentation portion to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Mr. Mayor, members of council, first I'd like to introduce Garrett Hummel with Wilson & Company. He is the project manager. You all met him when we awarded the design contract several months ago. What I'd like to do at this time is just kind of highlight a number of the project elements. And first of all, starting with, we are reconstructing Ward Road. It will be a complete urban section, that means curb and gutter and enclosed storm conduit, from 163rd Street, which is where the Lee Summit project left off, to 58 Highway, or to the limits of the roundabout, so approximately 58 Highway. Some of our major project elements include 2 pedestrian crossings. We're going to have raised medians with a pedestrian actuated flashing beacon. Now, this is not a signal that stops traffic, but it is a flashing beacon that calls attention to traffic that there is a pedestrian wanting to cross the road. There is a pathway along the east side of the road, the entire project limits, which connects to a sidewalk trail system in Lee Summit. When we started looking at that, this actually will connect Raymore to the Rock Island trailhead at Hartman Park in Lee Summit. So what we've also incorporated with that, and I think Mr. Fearborn brought that up to you a little while ago, is a parking lot, kind of a trailhead at the south end of the project. We are also putting in a new bridge at Alexander Creek. We are changing the road elevation approximately 5 feet to get the road above the flooding elevation at that location. So with any project of this nature, when you're doing reconstruction, you run into a number of conflicts. We've got some conflicts, and everyone has been cooperative with us. These are just things that have to be dealt with. Evergy needs to replace a pole near the Water District 3 driveway. If you're kind of familiar with Ward Road there across the street on the east side, they've got a number of guy wires there that were in conflict with the trail location. They're going to be replacing that with a steel pole so they can completely do away with the guy wires. We do have some conflicts with the Water District existing water main, where we have where we're extending the storm sewer. There are some pipes that need to be relocated there. Also, with the raising of the bridge and filling, we put an excessive amount of cover on their water main, so that needs to be, under our current proposal, needs to be relocated. But we did have a conversation with the Water District, and They actually have a desire to upgrade their water main and from a 6-inch to an 8-inch to support development in the area. They want to, and what they did in Lee Summit, and it works really well, they want to incorporate this water main upsizing in our project. And it would be, we're going through, we would bid it, we'd work out a reimbursement agreement. I've already provided Mr. Zur a model that was used in Lee Summit. This is desirable because we have control of the work. We don't have conflicts with a second contractor on site because the water main is not in the right-of-way. It's in a dedicated easement, so the water district would have control over that. We would not have control over their contractor, which could lead to conflicts and delays in our project. We also have just recently identified our final right-of-way needs and are initiating right-of-way acquisition. Also, MoDOT is in the middle of a bridge redecking replacement project. I'm sure you've all noticed there's been a considerable increase on with traffic on Ward Road. So as we started looking, although we had originally hoped to get a significant amount of work done this summer, when we started looking at when we could potentially start the project and the amount of work that would be done and leaving a project incomplete over the winter and then having to start over and having some adverse cost impacts with doing that, we have revised the schedule to bid the project in December and January, so we'll be ahead of all of the lettings that typically occur in the spring, with a anticipated construction start sometime in March, which would allow us to wrap up the project by late summer or early fall. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Krass. Great presentation, a lot of good information there. As I was driving that the other day, I was trying to kind of visualize how we're going to do this project. Will they be shutting down entire sections of this during this, or will one lane always be open, or do we know that yet?
We will come up with a traffic maintenance plan. However, those typically go out the door because the contractors have a lot better ideas than what we come up with. So we will work with the contractor on that. There are some challenges because of the access points and how we loop around those. And so, as I said, yeah, so we will work with the contractor. We will probably block off, my envision is to block off sections, but keep it open for local traffic and hopefully divert folks around, but it is going to be a challenge.
Okay, and then I think you already answered the second question I was going to ask, was roughly timeline, and we think that's 6 to 9 months?
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you.
The second challenge associated with this, as far as access is concerned, is, as I've shared with most of the council, I believe, MoDOT will be doing both of the roundabouts while we are doing this. One of the nice parts about our particular project is if we can finish it in the early fall, there will be very little conflict with the school district in that next school year. We can't say as much for the roundabouts, but MoDOT is indicating that they are also trying to figure out some way to provide 58 highway access through that roundabout construction at both locations.
Mr. Barber.
Also did want to comment, oh, excuse me, Councilmember, go ahead.
And since we're going to be moving that into 22, what other projects do we have now that we'll move forward this year, since we're going to not do anything this year on that Ward Road?
The closest one to moving forward right now is Sunset going north to 163rd Street. Maybe pretty close to same time?
Well, part of it depends on the developer's schedule, so that may be ahead. Our portion of it that you just heard first reading for at the last meeting is probably a 6 or 7 month design process with all the park elements, so it'll lag behind Ward Road a little bit. It was always going to.
Our goal was always that Ward Road would be the first of the projects to be completed. The big projects, obviously. We've got some going back here that are about done. Did want to add that because of the bridge closure, and it's one of the reasons, one of the statesman-like reasons that a delay is on, Ward Road needed, as I had expressed to the council, Ward Road needed to stay open as the primary detour route. It's not the one that's listed by MoDOT, but it is, in fact, the primary detour route. You'll notice that most of the vehicles here are pedestrian or construction, but we do have a police car on the far end because we had been out there taking radar through the STEP grant throughout. We have a number of cars that have been in excess of 70 miles an hour on the road, apparently believing that they are still on 291 highway. Mr. Crass was telling me that a week ago or so, he actually saw a car go airborne going that fast in an area that was county controlled but in bad maintenance. So we're out there constantly. In fact, we're out there tonight on the STEP grant.
Mr. Barber, did you have something else? No? Okay. Mr. Duggan.
But the state of that road right now, we drive that road often and it's in terrible shape. So I was wondering, how much do we expect to be spending just patching that road to make it passable while everyone's traveling it instead of 291?
We are kind of on a daily alternating circuit between that and Kurzweil Road, just doing some pothole patching, kind of dodging cars, and we're not able to do any significant patching of Ward Road at this time, but we kind of have, pothole patrol going between the two roads.
So is that taking a considerable amount of time and money?
No, it's mostly just, we've got the material in the back of a trailer. It's the guys get out and literally throw a few shovelfuls in, compact it, and go.
Somebody else? Go ahead, John.
Is that something you could fit in the back of a Prius if one of us wanted to come out there and keep an eye on that?
We do have some bags of cold mix
Okay.
that we could do.
No problem.
Everyone will just watch out for my red Prius on Ward Road now.
Did anyone else have anything before we adjourn to the floor? Mr. Ullman.
I had a question in regards more to the intergovernmental agreement and workings that go along with this project now. Are we still on track to take over, once the project's done, county's going to financially participate, and then at some point we're going to assume ownership? It'll become part of the city of the eastern portion of the road that we currently split with them, and now from what you're telling me, a small section to the north, which is all county. Is that a correct assertion in this?
That would be accurate. We are taking over ownership and maintenance, but the areas that are still considered county overlap, air down to the road, they continue to patrol. For instance, Mullendike. The area in front of Mullendike still belongs to the county.
I see. Thank you.
And likely is to stay that way.
From a mechanic standpoint, just so you all know, this would be north down here, running down to 58 Highway on the roll plot, as it's called, back here. And Mr. Crass and our guests will be available for any questions you might have. The back part of the table is where you're actually looking kind of the right way at this, but depending on how your brain works, I suppose.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick question, thinking about it, we are not putting in any turn lanes. right? Will there be any turn lanes into the subdivisions, like center
Yes,
turn
there'll be
lanes?
turn lanes for Ward Park Place, Alexander Creek, and at Sierra Drive. We can show you on the plans. But yeah, so that's a good question. The road essentially is a 2-lane road, and then as we get to the higher volume intersections, we'll widen it to a third turn lane.
Anyone else? Well, just before we, so Mr. Townsend and I were talking about it. He brought up the fact that you all will be making a determination in the next week or so for Mayor Pro Tem. You might want to talk amongst yourselves about that as we're assembled here tonight. And so anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. But we'll adjourn now down to the floor to look at the project. And if you have any questions, like Mr. Fearborn said, please feel free to ask. Okay? So we'll stand adjourned to there.